Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Scott Melker, crypto trader and investor, host of the Wolf of All Streets podcast, and author of the Wolf Den newsletter. We're going to discuss inflation data and Bitcoin's reaction to CPI. We'll also talk about the metaverse as well. Scott, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you so much for having me again.
You got it. And CPI came in at the highest level in 40 years. And Bitcoin's reaction was quite interesting. By the way, your analogy on the Wolf of All Streets broadcast was perfect, by the way.
Well, thank you. It's interesting, as I believe the analogy you're probably referring to is that I said it's like being on the Titanic and knowing it's sinking, but lighting your lifeboat on fire. Obviously, most people who are passionate about Bitcoin believe that it's an inflation hedge. And so it's sort of nonsensical to be concerned with what happens within 1 hour of an inflation announcement on any given month. But as you said, we did have the highest inflation in 40 years, really pretty astounding, 7.5% CPI. And we saw Bitcoin drop immediately when that happened. The reason that likely is because of whales using that data to move the market and make a bit of money. But what people believe there is that means the Fed will become more hawkish. Maybe that means they'll print less money. Maybe that means that assets like Bitcoin will temporarily drop in price. But if you believe in a long-term inflation hedge, that's sort of nonsense. And within an hour or two after that, price returned right back to where it was. So it ended up being a bit of a roller coaster.
You know, you shared a thread this morning by Phoenix talking about the amount of younger coins at an all-time low. What is the significance of that? I mean, I'm a longer term holder, and it seems like something you might get excited about if you're longer term with this.
Sure. Obviously, it's considered a bullish metric when people hold an asset, right? And so any data that you have that indicates that people are taking the supply off of exchanges and putting it away into long-term holdings, into cold storage, is generally considered bullish, because one of the major narratives for Bitcoin in general, of course, is its deflationary aspect. And when you sort of light that fire and add fuel to it and take more of the supply out of circulation, it really starts to become very clear that with any discernible rise in demand, even a slight drop or even demand, price should go up with supply going down.
So do you think part of the issue is it's a demand issue? Are newer investors nervous perhaps because of the recent volatility that we saw in December and January, which, by the way, stocks were not immune to that either?
Yeah, I think just, we know that new entrants to any market are weak hands, and inevitably, markets are a mechanism for transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient, as Warren Buffett said. And that's what you see in any market during any situation like this. People who buy with little conviction quickly capitulate and sell their coins back at a lower price, or their stocks back at a lower price the minute that there's even a hint of fear in the market. And we saw more than a hint of fear in the market over the past month.
Right. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about the metaverse. I think it's really interesting to see what luxury brands are doing. And even to your point that you pointed out this morning, fast food franchises are getting into the metaverse space. And I think part of the confusion can be is there a universal definition for the metaverse? How should we understand how brands are leveraging it?
It's interesting. It's a bit surprising. I won't say surprising, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with brands like McDonald's and Panera, who you're alluding to, and what they do in the metaverse, because obviously your avatar doesn't actually need to eat. So it'll probably be some sort of crossover in collectible assets, or a way to go online and have a unique experience for ordering your food in advance of picking it up in the real world, something like that. But I believe that the metaverse is going to be very sort of segmented into different games and different experiences. And then we'll have the aspects of the metaverse where perhaps you're in the real world and you put on your goggles and it tells you the price of an item, or you can interact with a billboard or an advertisement in a certain way that's more entertaining and more engaging than what we have now. I don't think we have a full-on Ready Player One sort of alternate universe that you plug into and everybody's hanging out there. I think that these brands are just looking to leverage the hype of NFTs and the metaverse, and to offer and to show that they're up on the times, and to have something to offer if that really becomes an engaging part of the future.
Right. And I would agree with you there, Scott, to catch on these trends here. It almost seems as if they're leveraging the metaverse to gamify their products, kind of a fancier way for rewards programs, or to show engagement metrics, or to use it as a client attention and retention tool. It really just sounds like a fancier way of gamifying.
I think that's exactly right. I think you innovate or die, right? And I think that every company on the planet that relies on brick and mortar right now can't help but look at what's happening in the cryptocurrency space, or even just think back to what Netflix did to Blockbuster, right? Nobody wants to be the next Blockbuster that failed to innovate or make a change and pivot soon enough and be on top of the next trend. We've all seen, obviously, that brick and mortar has had to rely largely on e-commerce already anyways. So the metaverse itself is just another way really of experiencing e-commerce, in my opinion, right? It's just the next logical step, a better experience for their customers who are coming in to shop online.
Right? Omni-channel or go bust. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
All right, Scott, great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.